Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming.
Action!
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. Good for Her is a free monthly fundraiser film series celebrating femme rage in film. It's held on the third Thursday of every month at Star Hill Beer Hall in Scott's Addition. Good for Her celebrates its one-year anniversary this Thursday, May 16th at 8 p.m. with a special showing of Jennifer's Body, which was written by Diablo Cody and stars Megan Fox as a cheerleader who starts killing her male classmates. There'll be a vendor market from 6 to 8 with a trivia game at 7 and a raffle fundraiser for Side by Side Virginia. I'll include a link on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
There was no opportunity to educate Black children in our community before Pine Grove.
There was an entire effort to build these schools for Black children because it was literally illegal to do that just a few generations before.
You learned teamwork. You learned about accomplishments of Black Americans. You learn the value of your race.
That was an excerpt from a new documentary entitled Pine Grove, More Than a School. This school served Black students in Cumberland County from 1917 to 1964. Since then, it's been restored, but it's now being threatened by a proposed mega landfill nearby. Janelle Pro and Tyler Kirby from Departure Point Films worked with Muriel Miller Branch from the school's board of directors and the University of Virginia School of Law to create a short documentary about the school's past and the upcoming challenges. We'll be talking with them about making the documentary.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Sugar on Apple TV. Since they're both recent film noir thrillers, comparisons with the new Netflix series Ripley are inevitable, but they're nothing alike. Where that one was all about the style, this one's all about Colin Farrell. He plays a private investigator who's hired by a Hollywood producer, James Cromwell, to find his granddaughter. He drives around L.A. in a cool turquoise Corvette. He isn't a drunk, a genre staple, but does have occasional tremors. The big character trait is that he's a sweet guy, as opposed to the usual jaded types. Fortunately, Farrell creates this guy with charm and depth. The locations and cinematography add some noir flair along with black and white clips from classic films to punctuate the scenes and reflect his love of the genre. The mystery falls along typical lines until the big twist, and the action is average, so it's all about Farrell's complex performance. I gave Sugar 3.5 out of 5 stars. Janelle and Tyler, welcome to Sifter for the Year. First of all, y'all are together, Departure Point Films. What's that about? Where did that come from?
Yeah, we started our video production company in 2016. And yeah, we sort of had other jobs before we started doing this, but started talking about working together and both come from like a photo or film background. Yeah, the name of the company is sort of because we tend to be out on location for a lot of our work.
That was my second question, is what's the name come from? There you go. So what kind of work does Departure Point do? Does it do like commercials or industrial videos, training videos, marketing?
A little bit of all of the above. Yeah, industrials, I guess you could call them, do a lot of stuff in the educational market too. Some of our earliest work was with ICA, Institute for Contemporary Art, and VCU. So, because we came out of that school, we knew the folks there, started working with them. And then, Janelle's background in the art scene, we started producing some of these kind of artist profiles for a client of ours. And so that evolved into just kind of this broader style that I think we've retained to this day, which is documentary-esque. Whether it is for a larger client, like a company or an educational client, we always kind of keep that documentary style approach true. And so, we've done stuff from kind of a traditional 30-second ad to things like this, where, it's a 20-minute longer form. Well, it's still in the short film world, but longer compared to a commercial, but always kind of keeping that docu cinema verite vibe throughout.
So how did y'all get this job?
I suppose we should first call out Hannah Ayers and Lance Warren from Field Studio.
Footnote.
If those names sound familiar, they were on my podcast in October of 2022, talking about their documentary, Picturing the Obamas, and I'll include a link on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
They were approached to do this and were unable to just because of their, they were scheduled. And so they threw the job to us. So we always want to thank Field Studio for that. But the film was originally commissioned by the University of Virginia and the director of PLACE. PLACE is their program on law, communities, and the environment at UVA Law. There's a clinic within that group, but basically their whole mission is to kind of elevate and help different environmental causes in the state. And, they were already working with Pine Grove School and AMMD, which is the family organization that kind of runs the school. They were already providing legal assistance through their clinic to this group. The director of this clinic, or the director of PLACE, reached out, again, originally to Hannah and Lance, but then to us, saying, like, we want to tell the story of the school, the history, get a little mention of UVA's involvement in kind of the legal assistance that they're providing. But from the very beginning, they were very clear they wanted this to be a larger film and a larger story about Pine Grove and, the history of the area and the kind of work that goes into helping a group like this. It was supposed to be originally like a short 5-minute piece, and it evolved into this 20-minute thing just because, the characters were too compelling. The story was too compelling to really be contained in a 5-minute piece alone. So it kind of grew organically, and we were happy to watch that happen.
So Janelle, why don't you give us a little quick rundown of what this documentary is about?
The film is about a location called Pine Grove School, which is located in Cumberland County, Virginia, which is about an hour sort of southwest of Richmond. And it's a rural area. And so the film is sort of about the history of Pine Grove, a large movement of rural schools that it grew out of originally, the history of Cumberland, and then the function that the school had for the community. But then it also moves into the threat that it is now facing from the proposal of a mega landfill across the street, which is where that connection to UVA law comes in.
One thing you didn't mention is this is an African-American school, one of a few in the county or in the state that were made for Black students to go to, correct?
Yeah, it was a movement of rural school creation for Black students during the Jim Crow era. So while segregation was occurring in America, Black students couldn't attend white schools. So there was a movement to create spaces for them.
I know I heard in the documentary there are 6 of these, at least in the state. And I'm assuming the reason they picked this one is because of the landfill issue. Or is there another reason they picked this one in addition?
For the film, it largely, I think, is because AMMD and the Pine Grove School are a client of the law school. So that's really their core connection there. I don't know particularly the state of the other schools. I know some of them are fairly well preserved. There's definitely another one in Cumberland that we've driven by. Yeah, that's why there's the focus on this particular school for this film.
When these schools were founded in the early 20th century, there was thousands. That's kind of remarkable that they're preserving the ones that are still around, both structurally and the stories of them. But it was kind of the brainchild of, Booker T. Washington, Tuskegee, and then also with help from the head of Sears at the time, Julius Rosenwald. They put these funds together and really kind of set out to create these thousands of schools so that Black kids would have somewhere to go, especially in kind of the rural South where the situation was the worst for them for sure.
Well, so you've already got 5 more built-in documentaries waiting for you. Find those other schools. By the way, I saw my buddy Samantha Willis in there. That was a nice surprise to see her. She used to be at Richmond Magazine when I wrote stuff. And her sister, I've cast before. She's a wonderful, talented actor, too.
Family of talent.
So tell me some of the other things that Departure Point might have done that might be kind of interesting or unique or something that kind of people might be interested in hearing about.
A few years ago, we did a project about a hospital in Newport News called Whitaker Memorial Hospital. It's no longer functioning as a hospital, but it was a Black created hospital for the Black community in Newport News. And that was actually commissioned through the library there. And I used to teach at VCU. I had a former student that worked there who got us in touch with them for that project.
It was interestingly similar because that hospital, not too dissimilar from the, Tuskegee Rosenwald schools, was also created as kind of this option that wasn't available for, aspiring Black doctors, nurses, and of course patients, all of whom were in one way or another turned away from kind of the typical hospitals of the time that were, heavily segregated. So it was funny to have those two projects kind of, nothing to do with each other in terms of, the client that commissioned them or the characters, but from a similar kind of storytelling perspective of a building and then a system that came out of a place of need.
Interestingly, I did a podcast a couple of months ago with Sean O. Utzi about the Central Lunatic Asylum for Colored Insane. And I'm going to include a link to that on the webpage for this show so people can see that one too if they'd like. So let me ask you a couple of production questions about the documentary. I noticed that sometimes when you had photos, they were either somebody was either holding them or they were like flares around the edges. So they weren't the traditional pan and zoom where you put them on a flat surface and you pan across them and zoom. Why did you decide to give them a little edge? Literally.
Yeah, you see the edge. Yeah, I mean, as you pointed out, like there's nothing wrong with it, but the Ken Burns effect, as it's largely called, it's just it's used a lot. So we're because the school where we filmed most of the interviews had such character, and I mean a lot of the photos that we were either scanning in or like you said, filming folks holding them, they had such character to them and kind of that texture and grit and just the overall historical nature of the project. We wanted to make sure that there was something that kind of separate, made sure that those photos didn't appear too clinical or at least as sterilized as they could have been. So yeah, we did some of the kind of lensing effects around the edge, that chromatic aberration. It kind of makes them come alive a little bit more than I think just the pan across.
Chromatic aberration. That's a good way to put it. I just said pretty lights around the edges.
It's probably
you got the
more
professional
later.
term. And I noticed, and I'm assuming I know the answer, but you had the head of architecture at UVA, kind of some interesting, unusual angles. I'm assuming that was a Zoom interview and you decided to shoot it more differently so that it wasn't just looking like a flat Zoom?
Exactly. Well, that was you're talking about Dr. Kwesi Daniels.
Right.
He's the head of the architecture program at Tuskegee, right? So he's down in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So since he was, the budget, we just couldn't fly down there just to do his interview. Unfortunately, we would have loved to, but he was kind enough to find a nice quiet room and do his interview just to make it, again, not like this straight on digital piece that sits among all these other very organic elements. We wanted to at least make it feel like there's still a camera involved. And so, gives it a little bit of edge.
And what was the biggest challenge on making this documentary?
I would say filming in a rural area without electricity was definitely a consideration.
Wow. So the schoolhouse did not have electricity when you were shooting there?
No.
I don't know if it ever did. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's
You're
lights
right.
installed, so I think it did have electricity running to it at some point, but, we needed to bring a generator and find alternative ways to make the film with our equipment on site.
Lots of battery charging.
Yes.
Big batteries. Yeah. Generator. And anytime you have a generator, you got to make sure to run it far enough away so it doesn't hurt sound.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah, because that's a 2-room schoolhouse in the middle of the woods. So you had to get that Jenny far away from it, I guess.
Yeah, we ran it back. And then I think also just, there's kind of like a triangle of the production where it's like we are the people, making it technically. Then there's UVA and kind of the school who are helping folks and doing some of the coordination. And then there's like the interviewees themselves who are also essentially the storytellers, like Muriel and all the alumni and folks you see in the film. The school is compensating us, but we don't want to be a burden on any of the folks who are in the film because obviously there would be no film without them.
Sure.
So making sure that we are working with their schedule and and their timeline and stuff like that, making sure that we wanted to make sure we were serving them as well as helping tell the story. We wouldn't have done it any other way, but that does introduce some production logistics because sometimes you just you can't do something because someone's not available that day. Some things like that.
So the new mega dump coming to the area, how did that affect the documentary?
The whole film is compelling, I think, but I think the most compelling part to me as someone who was coming into this from somewhat of an outside and uninitiated perspective until we really got into it is the concept of environmental justice and kind of what that means and how it can oftentimes not be, or I guess I should say environmental injustice when it happens and when it's found. It's not always an act of malice or purposeful, evil. I mean, there are folks who definitely would use it as such, but the film talks about how sometimes it can be almost bureaucratically boring when it's like someone just doesn't note that this, whatever, a former house of enslaved persons is important and worth noting. And so therefore it doesn't go down on one document. You spin that 80 years later, and now that site is just considered empty space available for development. And so again, it's almost banal how unassuming that kind of simple act can be, where it's like someone didn't note that was important or they didn't consider it important. And then it has these repercussions later where then it's being bulldozed or being erased. And that's can set the table for the erasure of Black history. And so I thought that was I hope folks see and understand that point when they watch the film, because I think that's really kind of how it zooms out to talk about, what's happening now.
How can people see it? Is it going to be shown around, or what are the options for seeing it?
Yeah, currently it's being submitted to some festivals, and then there's also a local screening on April 5th, but I believe this will air after that. But I think there's the hope for more local screenings in Virginia to occur. And there's also even the option for people to request a screening on the website, pinegrovefilm.org. If you click on the screening button, you can fill out a form, and someone at UVA will receive that and can get back to you with details on how to be able to show it in your school or your community or however you'd like. Yeah.
Great. And I will include a link on the webpage for this show.
Surprise guest drop in.
Muriel, you're muted.
There she is.
Sounds like she's having her granddaughter help her or something. I've seen that before.
Oh, absolutely.
Hi there.
This is Kaylee at the University of Virginia Law School. So,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
I have help.
Footnote.
Muriel Miller Branch is the president emeritus of the school's board of directors and was a student at the school herself. Well, Muriel, thank you so much for joining us today. I love your pink jacket. That looks lovely.
Thank you.
So how did you get involved in the Pine Grove School documentary? I know how you got involved in Pine Grove School, but how did you get involved in the documentary?
Cale Jaffe brought this idea to my attention. Cale Jaffe is the director of the Environmental Law Clinic at UVA, and he brought the idea to my attention and asked if my organization would, be amenable. And of course, we certainly were.
And what organization is that?
It's AMMD, Pine Grove Project. And the AMMD stands for the acronym of the surnames of our family association, which saved the school in 2018 by paying the delinquent taxes.
And why did you want to save the school?
Because it's a historic resource in our community. It was vital to the education of Black children in my community, including me and including my dad.
Oh, great. So it went back a long time.
Oh, yeah. It was built in 1917.
And how did you help Janelle and Tyler find the people to be interviewed? Because it wasn't just you in there.
Well, because we are an organization, it was not difficult. We have people from all walks of life, different professions, who work with us in our both preservation work and in our advocacy for environmental justice.
Now tell me a little bit more about this name, because you said the 4 names. Are there 4 people?
No, there are 4 surnames.
So, okay.
Our family association is AMMD Family Association, or A.G. Miller Mayo Dungy Family Association.
Those are the names, obviously, that go
yes.
in. It's a little easier to say it with the initials, isn't it?
Those are my ancestors.
Okay. And what is your background? You're not a filmmaker, obviously, so they had to bring some people in to help. But what's your background?
I am an educator. I am an author. I am a minister.
Good. I hope you're retired on some of that stuff, at least for the teaching.
I have, indeed.
How involved were you in the making of the documentary? I know you're in it, but did they consult with you along the way on some other points?
They consulted with us on more or less the storyline, what information we would like to see covered. And in making sure there were people available in the community and who were involved with the organization and with the preservation and advocacy work we're doing, available to tell the story.
So what's happening with the landfill issue now? Has that been resolved, or that's still a fight?
That is still very much a fight, very much an active fight. Green Ridge now has a conditional, there's parts of the permitting process and they have a conditional permit for Part A of that process through the Department of Environmental Quality.
And what does Part A mean?
That means that some of the regulations, environmental regulations, and that kind of thing they feel have been met satisfactorily to go to Part B, which is actually building like the infrastructure for the land. Yeah.
So it's already moving forward.
Conditional to us means stop and breathe.
Right.
Conditional to them means, we have cleared a hurdle. So we have two different definitions of conditional.
What can people do if they want to get involved personally?
If they want to get involved personally, they can visit our website, which is ammdpinegroveproject.com.
Right.
We're also having our first public premiere of the documentary at the R.R. Moden Museum in Farmville, Virginia on April 5th to commemorate Dr. Booker T. Washington's birthday.
Footnote.
Unfortunately, that screening was before this podcast dropped. At this point, the next screening will be a Juneteenth event in Cumberland on June 15th. Now, let me ask you this. The first time you saw the finished product, Muriel, what was your response? And remember, Tyler and Janelle are listening, so...
I think I told them that my first reaction was tears of joy, because for the first time, this medium had been used effectively to help us tell the story.
Great. And it sounds like it's affecting you now.
It is. I saw it again today. I'm at UVA now. The law clinic put on the Land, Climate, and Justice conference. So I was able to attend a portion of that today. And each time I see it, I get choked up.
That says something to the power of their ability. Janelle and Tyler, anything you want to say to Muriel while we got her here? Or Muriel, anything you want to say to them?
I just want to say again, thank you. And let's now promote.
There you go.
I mean, the pleasure was all ours, Muriel. I know we've told you that before. I mean, honestly, Jerry, she very well should be considered a producer among many other things in the film. I mean, we couldn't have done it without her. She brought us all these voices, like were only possible through her. And so, so Muriel, so thank you again. I mean, it was a joy to work with you and everyone and to tell the story. And I know it's very rewarding now seeing people start to see it. And I mean, I can't wait for the 5th. I know this will be done by then, but that'll be very exciting to see people watch it again.
Yeah.
Well, terrific. I want to thank you all for coming on and talking about it. It's a fascinating subject. I hope it makes a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
That was the producers of the documentary Pine Grove, More Than a School, Janelle Pro and Tyler Kirby from Departure Point Films. In a first, the surprise guest was at the end of the show, and it was Muriel Miller Branch from the school's board of directors. Pine Grove School served black students in Cumberland County from 1917 to 1964, and it's been restored, but it's now being threatened by a proposed mega landfill nearby. I'll have links to several pertinent websites on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
Coming soon. In theaters.
If. This is about the imaginary friends, or ifs, who are left behind when their kids grow up, starring Ryan Reynolds with voices from Steve Carell, Lou Gossett Jr., Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Matt Damon, and John Krasinski, who also wrote and directed. Back to Black, the biopic of Amy Winehouse. The Strangers, Chapter 1. After car trouble, a couple has to spend the night in a cabin, but 3 masked strangers show up to terrorize them. There'll apparently be more of these, all directed by Rennie Harlan. I Saw the TV Glow. Two friends, Justice Smith and Bridget Luntz Payne, bond over the love of a supernatural TV show, but it's mysteriously canceled and fear ensues. Pool Man. Chris Pine co-wrote, directed, and stars as the titular character. He dressed like him for the premiere of the film. Also with Jennifer Jason Leigh, Danny DeVito, Annette Bening, and his father, Robert Pine, as the Lizard. Gasoline Rainbow. 5 teens from a small town in Oregon decide to have one last road trip to the Pacific Coast, 500 miles away. Wildcat. Maya Hawke plays writer Flannery O'Connor, trying to write her first novel, and it's directed by her daddy, Ethan.
TV and streaming.
Bridgerton on Netflix. Season 3 is back with new love affairs and more. The Blue Angels on Prime follows this famous group of flyers through training and performance. Interview with the Vampire on AMC. After a great first season in 2022, the epic love story continues without Bailey Bass, who played Claudia. She's been replaced by Delaney Hales. Mother of the Bride on Netflix. Brooke Shields has the title role. She attends her daughter's destination wedding only to discover that her ex, Benjamin Bratt, is the father of the groom. Ashley Madison, Sex, Lives, and Scandal on Netflix, a documentary on the notorious hookup website for married people. Lala, the story of Lollapalooza on Paramount Plus, a documentary of the Fame Festival. Next week, we'll meet the makers of another documentary. This one's about former Virginia Governor L. Douglas Wilder. That's it for this week. This is TV Jerry. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.